everybody, and welcome back to another 31 Days of Indie Horror. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome guest with us. We got Don Anelli. How you doing, Don?
Hey, what's going on, man? Glad to be a part of this.
Do you like Don or Donald? Because your name says Donald.
Donald is my birth name, but I go by Don professionally everywhere, so that's kind of where I go with that one.
Let's just keep it at Don then.
Yeah.
All right. So Don, you weren't on last year's, were you? I don't think you were on last year's 31 Days of Indie Horror. I don't think. Were you? Uh-oh. Yikes. We got a little bit of a mess up right here. Of course, because of Zoom.
No. Hello? You there?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Yep. It said my internet
Okay,
connection. Yeah, it said my internet connection is unstable.
Okay, I'll repeat that if you need me to.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. We weren't connected last year. I think it's been beginning of this year that we've connected.
Okay,
and
cool.
Been friends. But so yeah, I don't remember being a part of last year's.
Well, there you go. Now you're welcome to the family. You know, that's So yeah, basically, I decided, because I was going through Tubi and I was trying to figure out what we could do, and I decided to do just kind of point and whatever for each person that I picked, and you ended up getting butchers, which I'm sorry, it was not a movie that I was that I personally was a fan of when I because I just watched it for the first time today, and
yeah, same here.
Yeah, it was not something I enjoyed. So tell us, can you encapsulate the story for us?
As best I can. That was one of the issues I had with it, but yeah. So basically, this group of friends are traveling home, traveling through the backwoods of. Did they actually give they said that they were going to a place called Glenville or something like that.
They didn't say
gave the
where
destination of where they were going, but they never said where they were coming from.
And from what I've understood, this is a Canadian production. So
yeah, so I'm saying I've never been there, so I'm not entirely sure. But they gave the place where they were going, but they never gave where they were coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah, anyways, they're traveling through the backwoods, and familiar stuff happens. They get a blown tire, and their car breaks down. So upon going to help, they meet up with the owner of this local car repair shop out in the middle of the wilderness, and from there they end up finding themselves tortured, kidnapped, and hunted down by a pair of brothers who do this for a living and must try to survive the night, essentially.
Exactly. That pretty much encapsulates the whole story. That tells it all. But we'll go kind of more deeper, I guess, into it. So it starts off with this. First off, it starts off with another pair, like a couple that break down. And how is it these people just always break down there? I mean, Wrong Turn made it so there was something in the road that made their tires bust out or something, so that made sense.
Right, yeah.
But this, it's everybody just keeps breaking down in this area or whatever, and I'm like,
well, I got the impression that the opening scene was it was definitely at a different time, because one that took place in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the impression that the opening was their parents' funeral. Because I thought that they were digging the grave.
Yes.
Because that's what they were. That's what they had the tools for.
At least for the mama.
That was they just happened upon them just by pure happenstance. So I got the impression that was supposed to set up them as the ruthless, sadistic bastards who are there to just hunt anybody that comes into their territory. It was just a pure happenstance. There was very little about it that was planned. It was just, okay, we're alone, we're here, they're here, let's do this.
And it seemed like that the mother of the group originally like was the better, like was the person who had the shit together, was able to get,
Yeah, like the brains behind everything. And then the oldest one was attempting to do that, but he wasn't necessarily as together as the mother was.
Mhm.
Like the mother was definitely the brains behind what was going on.
Exactly. But we never see that. And that I
Well,
think is
like I'm saying is that I got the impression that the opening was the funeral.
right.
So it's like them out on their own for their first time.
Well, no, I get that, but like
Yeah.
honestly, the mother, like even if they did like flashbacks and the mother telling them what to do and shit like that, that would have been far more interesting than what we got because
Yeah.
because these guys, I mean, I get it. These guys were idiots in a way. Like the main guy, the main bad guy was sort of he was sort of more, he had more of his shit together than the other guy. Who I guess it would be like older brother, younger brother kind of attitude, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Both are sort of these like dumb country hillbilly, like, whatever you redneck kind of people, but like, do they have rednecks in Canada? Like,
I can't say for personal experience.
I don't,
Yeah, I can't tell you that from personal experience or not, but
I
uh,
can't either. I've never, like, this is the first Canadian redneck movie I've ever seen in my life. Now, I don't know if that there is a like subgenre of that I just haven't dived into yet, but
yeah, I
this was
mean,
like the first of that, you know. Um,
yeah,
what I can say is the thing that I didn't like about it the most is that it was just too mean spirited. And I mentioned that earlier to you, but like it was just too, I mean, not, it wasn't even dark. It was just too like just mean spirited, like I get it. We're kind of, you know, and the biggest problem is like we're kind of getting a half and half of the group, right? We're getting half the survivors, like Jenna
right.
and her group, and then we're getting half of the killers, you know. And what's usually good about these movies is the fact that there's like usually you're rooting for one or the other, right? But
Right.
this time I wasn't really rooting for either side because both of them were idiots, in my opinion. Did you feel the
Yeah,
same way?
yeah, I know where you're coming from because I really found that the decision to do the storyline involving the group that stumbles upon them, you have the cliche sleeping around on their best friend, trying to keep it a secret, and how interesting and how original is that to have the boyfriend of the one girl sleeping with their best friend under their nose,
Yeah.
and nobody knows, and so it's kind of like in one, oh god, this crap again.
I
But
I
yeah,
I didn't
I do
mind
see where you're
that.
coming from with it being mean spirited, especially to me towards the end. I mean, not jumping that far ahead, but yeah, I definitely can see where you're coming from. My main issue was to me, even though it takes place in Canada, it's just a dime a dozen backwoods psycho in the woods kind of a film. Like I've seen this done billion times better, and either of the Hills Have Eyes or sequels. Like you said, Wrong Turn is a big imprint on this one.
Mhm.
Even like a couple of other like indie low budget slasher films set in the backwoods. You've seen this done numerous times over, and there's like very little about it that's original or interesting or done creative or in any kind of clever way. I will say that I did like the beginning half hour of them being stranded out on the road. I
Mhm.
did find some of that interesting. How they actually get into their grasp in the first place. That wasn't bad. But yeah, once they get captured and once they get tortured, yeah, it was kind of it oddly mean spirited for like no real reason. Like the way that they treat them compared to the way that they treat the other girl that they have captured at their house, like it just felt really odd and disconnected for me. I don't know about you if you felt that way, but it really felt like they were more mean spirited to this group than they were to the other girl that they had captured.
Well, they were, and they even say something to her in the beginning. The guy says, "I'm gonna let you live, and you don't know that he's basically, well, and spoiler alert for everything, I guess, because there'll be spoilers in this whole movie, in this whole review. But there is a scene where, there's the big reveal that the girl is pregnant, and everything. And so you're like, oh shit. So they kept her around so that they could get her pregnant and keep, I guess, the family going, I guess that's what mama would have wanted, but see, that's the thing. Like, we have to guess that's what mama would have wanted or anything. There's barely any like actual like explanations for anything. Like, why do they keep that one guy, one like deformed guy locked up? Like, they try to explain that, but like it still doesn't make any sense. Like, what is he? Like,
Yeah.
who is he? What is going on?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, they make it sound like he's like the youngest brother, but then he's also like some kind of like deformed member that somehow they're able to control, that even though he's locked up, they can control him, even though, he's like too savage to be around other people. Like, yeah, there's like very little about this that they actually ever spell out and explain.
Yeah, like he's too savage, yet when he is let loose, they pretty much control him. They pretty much tell him,
Right.
hey, go after that girl, right? And he does, it's not like I would have loved to see it where they say, go after that girl. And he just went on around in a circle or ran off somewhere else because he just, he was like, they had to keep him locked up because he wouldn't, obey them or something. Because now that he's
Or
just locked up, they're just assholes to their brother or
or
whatever.
even more like attack them. Like,
Yeah.
if like he's even like so uncontrollable that the first thing he sees, even if it's them, he attacks. Like, that would have been an even cooler thing.
Yeah.
And then like they stumble upon the scene in the middle of it, and then that's what causes him to attack her. Like, I mean, something like that I would have had a little bit more time, better time understanding, because you get the idea that like you said, he's too savage to be let loose amongst other people, but yet around them, like, he understands their orders perfectly. Like,
Right.
yeah.
So honestly, tell me this. Were you yelling at the screen as much as I was through this whole movie?
If your answer is throughout the final half hour, then
No,
yes.
it was in the beginning and the final half hour. Like, so in the beginning of the movie, when they go to the gas station, right?
Right.
They ask for a tow, right? And everything. And the guy calls him up and, he was giving red flags. Like,
Oh,
I
I
wouldn't
I
have
caught,
even,
yeah, there's like, yeah, it's like almost like, I was actually surprised the banner didn't roll down behind him. It's like, guys, I'm going to kidnap you, run away.
right. Because
Ex-
he was honestly like, he was saying, oh, there's two more of them, and kind of warning Willard that there's actually two more that he needs to take care of or bring over or whatever he needed to do. So it was just strange, man, because like when you kind of get these vibes, and I was getting the vibes, and I wasn't even there in the scene. Like, you get those vibes, you go, I mean, these must have been the dumbest two characters, the two people who were cheating on their significant others, because they were just sort of like, and then she was gonna go alone to walk back to the car. What the fuck was wrong with that guy? Like, seriously, if you do, I'm not even like, he wasn't even a dick, and that was what made me so. If the dude was like an asshole, like I could understand him saying, "Yeah, you go, I'll stay here." But this dude was nice. He seemed like a good dude. You had to care for him, and yet he did not go with her to go back. He left her alone, which separated the two people, which is what the script needed. Like, things like this, it just pisses me off in writing. It doesn't work. You have to pick sides. If a character is an idiot or an asshole, then whatever. But those guys were not complete idiots, and he wasn't an asshole. He was just well, I mean, like I said, he
I
was an
mean,
idiot.
you,
But he was
you
that.
you could say he was just based on the fact that he is screwing the best friend behind his girlfriend's back. So you can kind of maybe give him points for that, but no, I totally agree. In the scene in the house, in the not the house, but at the station, where he's trying to do the right thing, he's waiting around trying to like make sure that help arrives. She just flat out says, "Well, I'm going back. If you're gonna stay here, screw you."
Right.
And it's like wait, what? Where did that come from?
Hmm.
And then
But
she
but
comes
then
back, and
I would
it's
say, like, I would still say go, like, with her. Don't leave that chick alone. Like, in the middle of the woods, like, where you don't, she's walking by herself. It's unsafe, period. Like, so if he liked her, which he seemed to like her because he was about to like get it on with her again for the whatever time, how many times he's messed around with her. It just sort of irked me that he just let her go, even if she was being rude and saying, dude, I'm gonna leave you alone here. Just go with her, which made me think, oh man, this guy's an idiot. Like, why would you just leave her to, and then you're separated from her, so two's always better than one, even though it's never mind. None of that will ever worry because never ever, matter because these people are going to kill them whether they're together or not,
right, yeah.
but they
Yeah,
wanted
no,
them
I totally
separated.
get what you're saying. That is a little kind of frustrating. I may not have been as upset about it just because I kind of expected that to happen. Just like this is like, splitting up the bodies to get them into their possession and something. So it's kind of like, that has to happen to get the story rolling. So maybe I understand where you're coming from
Okay.
because if I'm in that situation, it would be a very frustrating and kind of like, why are you doing this kind of a situation? But
Yeah,
I'm kind of more on the side of, well, I got to let the story happen. So maybe it's
right.
kind of like, you got to let the story happen in
You
that
have
kind
to
of a
let them
sense.
get kidnapped. I mean, that's going to happen. We knew that was a given.
Right. I'm just saying is that being an instigating incident to get them kidnapped and into their possession, I can see that happening as like a serviceable sort of route, a serviceable route to go. So it's
Okay.
a little bit less of an issue, but no, I totally agree. Being that it's not necessarily the smartest thing to do from a logic standpoint. Being that you're separating yourself, you're the stronger, you're the male, you're going to be the one that needs to protect her in this situation because you don't know where you are. You're alone in the woods. Your friends are an hour walk away, so they're not
Right.
going to be able to help you, and you need to be able to be there to protect her. So I can
Exactly.
understand that happening.
So the other thing that really, 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 really made me mad was where they went and found the tow truck guy, Willard. That pissed me off. Dudes, have you learned anything from like and Taylor? I loved her to death. I swear to God, I loved her so much. Like, I wanted her to survive so bad. But she is dumb as bricks. She thought that the people who are kidnapping them were gonna call a tow truck driver that they knew personally that wasn't going to be a bad guy,
Exactly. Yeah.
And when they
And
said, get in the car, I was like, chicks, run, get the fuck away, do something. You need to get out of there. Like, these people, this guy obviously did not look like a good dude either,
well, here's the other thing, and here's the issue that I thought you were gonna have fault with. This takes place. The tow truck, it comes around after everything has happened. They've already been captured. They've already been tortured. They've already been, split up. The truck was supposedly what 10, 20 minutes away from their car to begin with. Why is it
Well,
just showing up? Why is it only just showing up now after like it's been like several days since they've been captured? Why is it just showing up now to take the car?
there's two things for that. One, because it has to move the plot along, just like you said before, and B, because my take on that, and I, as a screenwriter myself, I can attest to that. This would be the answer most likely. The answer would be that they decided, or the tow truck driver was going to pick it up whenever he felt like it. He wasn't really going to be 30 minutes away. They were going to kidnap them as quickly as they could. They already had the one brother in the woods, and the you know what I mean? Like they were going to, that was about to happen. So they weren't going to even, the tow truck wasn't coming. There was no plan for that, right? So the 30 minutes away thing was just him calling and saying, we have a car. It's a Chevrolet. You're going to pick it up whenever you feel like it. But I'm not saying that on the thing. I'm telling these people we're going to pick it up now because, right? So, because Willard could have picked it up at any time, he just basically what he was there to do. And did you notice he brought him to a junkyard, right? The plan was to just take the car away, so that there's if a cop or somebody, notices the car, is like, let me find out what's going on. You know what I mean? Like then all of a sudden there's no evidence that these people are missing, and stuff. So that's my thought.
I get that. It's just to me, I'm one of those people that I'm more of like a timeline kind of a person, where timelines don't line up. Like that really irks me. Like
I get it.
Yeah, it's just to me it was one of those where it's like, everything has already happened, where they've kidnapped all three of them. They kidnapped the three of them. They take them back. They torture them. They kill the two of them, and then they still have the girls left alive. So then they have to, they have to wake up. They have to escape. They have, they deal with the brothers themselves, and then they have to escape. And only just now the tow truck is getting there to move the car away.
See, so really that was there so that they would meet Willard, who would bring them back and then, get them whatever. But the thing, yeah, you're right. Because when I saw the tow truck, and the first thought in my head was like, wow, he's there now, right when they, like how very like obvious like this, you know what I mean? Because if you were to think about this in real life, which obviously it's not real life, or whatever, but if we're in real life and they were tortured or whatever, and they got there, most likely their car would have been gone by then, right?
Right.
So what they could have done to introduce him, right, was already have brought the car and then like looking around going, where's the car? Right, it's gone. Like I thought that it was over here, or whatever. It's gone. And then they would be like, but see, I mean, how would they know where it was? They just keep going and just be like, we've gone for miles and miles. It's been 2 hours. Let's, where's the, car must be gone, or whatever. They must have taken the car away. And then the tow truck driver at some point, is driving by and meets them. That would have worked better. But for them to like show up like that just seemed like very, I don't know. All of it seemed a little odd,
Yeah.
But I get it. I would have been a little, if I were a timeline guy, I'd be a little annoyed, but I kind of look at it as like, okay, like you said, this needs to happen for them to split up and everything. For me, they needed to meet Willard or whatever. Is that his name? Willard? I think.
The tow truck driver, he was Willard.
Oh my God, that guy. Was he part of the family or was he just a like friend of the family?
Good question. The way that he interacts with them, maybe it's the mother's brother.
Oh, he might have been the Uncle Willard.
Maybe the way that he interacts, because he says, because remember, he says to Oswald at one time, when Owen's not here, I'm in charge. So it's not like he's the brother. So it's not like he's the brother, because he's older than Owen, and he's older than Owen and Oswald. So it's not like chain of command dictates that he's next in line based on age, because he says when Owen's not here, I call the shots.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking he's got it. So to me, that automatically clued me in that he's probably the mother's brother.
Okay, I never thought about that. Uncle Willard. That's a funny name.
I mean, they probably just call him Willard just for short, like, but to me, that line clued me in that he was the mother's brother.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not, because like I said, if you're going chain of command, he would still be the one that calls the shots if the mother died. Like he's the
Right.
father. If he's
Yeah.
the father, then he would be the one that still calls the shots.
Yeah, if he were the father, he'd call the shots. Like he'd be second in command, basically.
Right.
I think the father had been dead before, and the mother had just died because they were just talking about
Right. That was the way
putting mom
that
to
was the way I
rest.
took at it because yeah, I was always confused on where he fell in, but then he says but then he says that line and it's like, oh, okay, that clues me in. He's probably the brother, like the
See,
mother's brother.
once again, and look, I mean, I can understand people going, well, we could make a sequel, and the sequel explains like the backstory of the brother and the mother and all this other stuff. And I'm like thinking, I don't like, I honestly wouldn't want to watch a Butcher's 2. Like it sort of ended where I just didn't give a fuck, you know, like it sort of ended where I'm just like, I don't care about this fucked up family anymore, or what's going on with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just it's sort of meh now. Um, so I was really disappointed, but I mean, I was disappointed but I didn't have any expectations going in. So that's worse, you know, to me. Because like sometimes I have oh man, I have these great expectations, and I'm disappointed. I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have had these expectations. I had no expectations and I was disappointed. Not good, you know?
Yeah.
Like it just was sort of because I was hoping, I don't know, based on the plot, that it would have been a little bit more fun than it was. And I think that was the problem, was the killers weren't fun enough, and they were too brutal and nasty, and it just sort of didn't make it fun, you know?
Yeah, I probably would have had a better time if they bring the kidnapping in the third act and have the first two acts them chasing them through the woods and then thinking that they have salvation, and then they stumble upon the hut thinking that's like a safety net, and then oh crap, that's their house, and then they show up chasing them and then they're caught there.
Oh, that was another thing I forgot to bring up that really just irked me again. God damn, this movie had so many things. I'm like, why are you doing this? So she flags down someone driving, right? Which turns out to be Owen, right? And I'm like thinking, have you learned? I mean, like, okay, so first of all, you flag down this guy, you find out he brings you to this house, and you find out this guy's a psycho fucking kidnapper, killer guy. And yes, he kills that one boyfriend in the beginning, but as far as we know, we don't know much about these guys. We don't know that they like carve people up, and do they eat them? I don't know. Like that, see, some of that would have been cool, you know? Like if they worked at like the local restaurant, like the diner, you know, they're just bringing meat supply down there or something, you know? But or that they were just trying to live and survive and give food to their brother, who, you know what I mean? Stuff like that would have been cool. If that's what they were doing, they were carving up the people that they found or whatever and giving them the meat to their crazy fucking deformed brother. Like stuff like that. I would have been into that. But
Yeah. Yeah, it may have been, may stumble a little close to a Motel Hell or something like that, where, they're serving the, meats as like their roadside attraction stuff. But yeah, it would have added a fun little thing, like, they're actually hunting out for a reason rather than just, well, I'm just going to stumble across whoever is in my path and I'm just going to torture and kill you because you're in the wrong area. Like,
yep.
Even though that it adds like a really dark atmosphere to it, it's just not that original and it's not that creative or clever or anything.
It's not
But
that
yeah,
scary either. Like you would think, like that's sort of a scary premise in a way. Like if you're out in the middle of nowhere. But I think my other biggest problem in this movie is like the music was just sort of not all that, like I don't remember any of the music except for that one ugly song that was like, who listens to that on the radio? Like even if you're a country killer.
And they were the thing is that that's supposedly like a song. It sounded like it was from like the 40s or the 50s.
Right.
Were they that racy back then? Because I thought that was like the whole point with Elvis, like, him being like so sexually suggestive, like that sounded a lot earlier than him.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear, what that song goes on, like, yeah, that was just completely weird.
Oh man, that song was just absolutely bonkers weird. I didn't like it. I didn't like it because it it's a cliche sort of today, that people put those kind of those creepy 40s, 30s songs or whatever that sound really creepy, and they make it sound creepier when they do the transfer of it. And then this, I didn't buy it. Like I don't buy that guy listens to that while he's driving, like. And
Yeah,
I mean, it was supposed to be like if they just used that as like the last song, that might have been eerie. And they did. But if they had just done that, but the fact that they used it
mm,
earlier, I was just like, no, I don't
yeah.
buy it.
As like the first song on the end credits, I would have bought that a lot better.
Hmm. For sure. That would have worked. That would have just gave this creepy vibe to the end and probably made me like it a lot more. But the fact that I heard it earlier, in the movie when he was
Yeah,
driving just didn't, it wasn't like a theme throughout it. It was just once, or I mean, it was just twice used, and it wasn't, it didn't have that impact. Like I said, if they had done it, like, yeah, like you said, like if they had done it at the end, just the end, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more. And I think I would have loved that ending. Their credits went, did you notice the credits went boop? Like I was noticing, I was like, wait, they've got like 1 minute left. How are they going to get credits into it? And then they did. They were like, we only have like 10 people in the cast and 20 people doing the work, and it was definitely
yeah.
an indie project.
That was really weird because I noticed that all of a sudden it's like the thing popped up and it's like like here's your next suggestion on Tubi, and it's like, wait, like that can't be right. Like how does it have like a minute 10 left?
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm saying, because like on Tubi, when it starts rolling and you get that playing next, like the recommendation thing, and you see like on the bottom like where the credits are rolling, and it said like a minute 10, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, usually there's at least 2 minutes of credits. And like, I mean, at least that's a pretty good thing. Like sometimes you get the credits and they take up like 10 minutes of fucking time. You've seen those movies where they just pad the thing with giving you 10 minutes of credits in the beginning, 10 minutes of credits at the end, and then the rest of the movie, you know what I mean? The rest of the movie is like maybe 50 minutes long or 30 minutes, you know what I mean? Like, just to pad the running time out. But
Yeah,
this
you get
actually
that
added,
slow scroll where it's like just growing like that.
and then
And
every
it's like, why in the world do you need credits to last that long? Like, it's okay to be like, 65, 66 minutes. Like, you don't have to hit the 70-minute mark.
well, I'm telling you, most people only have 50 to 60 minutes of a runtime a lot these days. And that's good, for an indie film, because when it gets to be like 2 hours long, I've seen some 2 hour long fucking indie films and these things, and I want to like punch everybody who makes these things, because like some of them just go on forever, and I'm just like, dudes, like we need some fastness. So sometimes I'm okay with the small scrolling, YouTube things. Like it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, but what I don't like is when it's just padding for runtime and everything, and it's just like we don't, in the beginning it's like 10 minutes of like intro, stuff or whatever. Um, but anyway, that's just like I said, that's independent filmmaking for you, which this movie was an indie film. Like, I mean, when I say 31 days of indie horror, this definitely qualifies. Um, I even believe that the main guy, Simon Phillips, the guy who plays Owen, or I think that's I think his family had a lot to do with this, because I kept seeing all these Phillips everything, like thanks to the Phillips, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
seemed like a
I
very
noticed that
family
too when they
affair.
were flying by, that there was a lot of that was repeated a lot. That name and director was,
Yeah.
yeah, the director, like Adrian Langley. I saw him repeated a lot, and it was like, okay, yeah, you can kind of get the sense that this is not necessarily like the biggest budget, or even like even like a low budget, like mainstream film, like this is like a pretty small indie kind of a feature.
And I believe he did the cinematography. And I will say that the best thing about this movie is the fucking cinematography. There are some, okay, so I am a really big fan of like the woods, like I love going out to the woods. I love watching movies about the woods. I mean, the woods, I don't like snakes or spiders or anything that's sometimes in the woods, and things like that. But I adore the woods. I think the woods, and they make for a really creepy atmosphere. And they did a great job with the woods.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll give you that. I really like I said, I was a big fan of the first half of them getting there. And a lot of that is the atmosphere, the drive through the woods. You have that overbearing look where it's like the tops of the leaves are like bearing down over the road, like it's about to swallow them up. And you have those cool shots where you see like the when the girl walks into the woods and she's about to go to the bathroom, you see like the fog cloud off in the distance where it kind of like obstructs everything, and you have like that really creepy vibe where the sun doesn't penetrate through and it looks like kind of like ominous and dark. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I really agree there. There's a lot of pretty impressive shots for something like this. Even just like, the simple shots of like the house out in the middle of the field, or like the sun rising up over the barn and you see like the reflection over the like the outhouse or the shack or shed or wherever like the back section of the house was. It looks a lot better than what you would have expected this kind of a film to look like. I definitely like that part of it.
It definitely. Have you ever seen the movie Badlands?
It's not coming to me this quickly, so I don't think so.
Okay, so Terrence Malick made a movie, like one of his first movies, I guess, or whatever. It's called Badlands, and it's this really great movie. It stars Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, and it's wonderful. We're gonna be doing it, I think this coming year for or next year for Criterion Watch, because it's a Criterion film. But it's amazing. It's beautifully shot, and it has a lot of woods in it. And it looked, the scene with the that you said with the house and everything, the shot of the house, that looked very much like a Badlands type shot. So I don't know if this is like a horror film mixed with Badlands, mixed with fucking Deliverance a little bit, it has like kind of that vibe mixed with Wrong Turn. So it's like Wrong Turn meets Deliverance meets what is it? What's that fucking movie? Over the Badlands. And it would be, I almost thought at one point they were gonna make what's his name, Mike, squeal like a pig, like I thought it was gonna go that route, but I guess they only like girls, or whatever. And I don't know why they even kept him alive. Like they killed the other boyfriend real fucking quick, the first boyfriend ever, know. And then they killed the other guy, Chris.
Well, no, in general, like that was an issue I was gonna bring up, was that even though that they're demented killers and they're like psycho kidnappers and they're holding them hostage, their behavior is incredibly inconsistent, where they keep leaving them alive to escape. And it's like, they have like 3 or 4 escape attempts. It's like, how malicious you guys were to treat them that way to begin with. You're not going to learn your lesson and like cripple them or like, chain them up better.
Yeah.
Like, the first escape attempt, like, you saw that the way that they, Jenna and Taylor, they pull the straps down and then they slip out of their ropes. And it's like, okay, well, what do they do after that? They don't do anything. They just throw them in the cell and lock the door.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that was like the one thing, like I was saying earlier, like that was to me, that was the big thing in the third act, where I'm like screaming at the screen, like, you can't keep them contained. It's like, they've escaped like 3 or 4 times.
Just kill them. Like at this rate, what are you keeping them around for? And then she goes and gives the knife to the girl, the pregnant girl, and the girl kills herself. At that rate, why the fuck did he keep her alive after that? Like, because she literally killed or had that girl killed, like he was so mad. I'm surprised that the dude did not fucking kill Jenna at that particular moment. you know.
Exactly. And exactly. And I mean, if that was the father, like, he sees the knife wound, he sees the fact that, she's holding it on him because he holds it on her, she holds it on him when he goes in to check. So he had to have known that she was the one that brought it in to begin with.
Mm.
Why is she still alive? Like, this is the woman that murdered, even if he doesn't think that she did it herself, she's holding the bloody knife. Like, this is
Mhm.
the woman that killed, your baby and the mother of your baby. Like, why is she still alive
Mm.
after the way that you've treated them beforehand?
And so we get that scene, and then I guess he knocks her out or whatever, ties her up, or doesn't even tie her up. He like leaves her on the fucking couch. I'm like, what? And then the guy leaves. Everybody leaves.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Everybody, even the killers split up.
and they
Like,
split up.
Owen and Willard, they have the conversation out in the middle of the road. It's like, Owen's driving his truck down to the store to grab the boyfriend who's been left in the hut alone this entire time for any wandering passersby to find. Willard is driving his truck, he's driving back to the house, and it's like, they just escaped. You got to deal with your brother. And it's like, everybody's escaping, everybody's, splitting up. Even, the girls are splitting up, the guys are splitting up. It's like everybody wants to split up, and it's like, just frustrating.
And then the biggest fucking frustration. She gets Mike. They see the keys are in the fucking
God,
truck.
don't even start with this. This was the most infuriating thing. Like,
it's like
I almost gave up and just rage quit the movie at that point. Like,
I almost wanted to too, honestly. If I didn't have to do this review, if I was just watching this like normal, I would have quit probably early on. This movie was so frustrating to me to watch because every single thing was just like, why the fuck is this happening? Like, like it's like people wrote a first draft of a script and then they were just like, we'll figure it out when we do the rest. So then they start going there like, oh shit, well, people won't care, and people do care. They look at this stuff and go, this is sloppy. And it's not just because these guys are sloppy. Everybody is fucking sloppy. And it doesn't make any sense. Like these, like literally and that was the worst part is the guy takes the keys with him. If he were smart enough, he should have just left it in the car and she could have just took off.
exactly. I mean, get her to safety, and you spend your time hunting them down, buying,
Yeah.
enough of a window for her to get to safety.
She is so, you should be kissing her motherfucking feet that she doesn't just leave your ass there tied up, and shit for, because she's the caring, sweet girl and she dies because of his stupidity. And that just pisses me because if I had to care about anybody in this whole movie, at all, I would care about Jenna. But she kind of gives me this vibe that she just, I don't know. I don't like her vibe throughout it. Not the girl who plays her. The girl who plays her did such a great job. Like,
Oh yeah, she was great. Yeah.
yeah.
The main group, even though the characters are complete assholes, the main group of four, I kind of thought that they were pretty decent actors, especially for like this kind of a budget or this kind of genre. Like,
Even the killers are great actors. They're just terribly sloppy throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. No, I thought the main six, they're pretty decent for this kind of a genre. Like, I've seen a lot worse for like this kind of level filmmaking.
Yeah. I mean, there was nobody in the movie that I thought was bad as an actor. I just thought everybody did stupid shit. And
yeah,
like that's fine because it's a horror movie. It's a teen horror movie, like you expect sort of it's a teen Scream or whatever with a little like, wannabe Rob Zombie in it, I guess. This is like the Canadian Rob Zombie. That's what I'm gonna call this director for this movie, particularly because he's the Canadian Rob Zombie. Tried to make everybody talk like they're like they're cursing all the time. And it feels sometimes when they're cursing, it doesn't feel like, realistic. It feels like people who are told to curse on in a movie, how Rob Zombie does, right? Like he typically curses a lot for characters who normally don't talk like that, or whatever, and so I don't know. I honestly, all in all, I thought this was just a very frustrating movie and also just not very good because at the end of the day, there was no fun to it. So like nobody who wins, the bad guys win at the end. Like they
Yeah,
weren't, I was kind of hoping at least Jenna would win, you know.
yeah. No, I definitely see that. I was probably, yeah, more frustrated than anything with this. And yeah, even though that there's like not a whole lot of really originality to be had here, it still could have been somewhat, decent, or even, mildly enjoyable if there was like any kind of like sense of fun to be had with the way that this plays out. But yeah, there's it, it's not really scary, it's not really, you know enjoyable, it's just frustrating, and it's not, you know yeah, I don't know like much else to say about this. It's just not that good.
Yeah, it's not a very good movie. And that's fine. Like, I mean, at least they went out and made a movie and it made sense in a way. Like, I mean, even if it's frustrating, it made sense. Like it had a beginning, a middle, and end. Like it was a feature length horror flick, and it had a 3 act structure. It's just wasn't very good. Like, honestly, I'm just you know, but whatever. I think the people that would enjoy this movie are people like movies where people just are, get killed, like with
Yeah,
no
I'd
consequences.
probably also, yeah, I'd probably, say for like those that just like, bare minimum psycho slasher backwoods, degenerate kind of, slasher films, I'd probably say that this may interest them.
Mhm.
If they're just in there for like the brutality and the mean spiritedness, and just, they're not really that interested in, like the technical qualities or like the script writing or any of that kind of stuff. Like they're just there to, get their mean spirited kicks out and just like enjoy like a group of people being tortured and dismembered and chased like that. You may probably like this a little bit more and be more forgiving of it, but yeah, most others I think are probably just going to be too frustrated and too pissed off to really find much enjoyment with it. So
Mm, yeah. I honestly, yeah, this is just it's just a mess of a movie. And honestly, I hope they really don't try to do a Butcher's Stew. I just hope they kind of leave it alone and move on to something else that probably will be a better movie because I see some potential in the director who is also, I believe, the cinematographer. So like I see some potential in him. I just don't I just didn't like this one, Like I think his next movie that's another horror film like this or something, I think if he at least makes it make sense, doesn't get too frustrating of whatever, maybe the movie might be decent, or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah, he didn't show me anything that I would be turned off from potential exploration of his work for, in the future.
mhm,
A lot of it, a lot of like the positives, like we were saying, were actually his doing like the directing and the cinematography and stuff.
mhm,
So I am not, it's not saying that, he's, somebody that should never pick up a camera again, because that's the one good part about it. But
right.
yeah,
I should definitely, give it another try, but don't make a sequel, buddy. Leave it alone because even if you brought Mama into us now, like to me, it's sort of killed, But maybe they'll make another one, and I'll probably end up having to watch it because, probably hopefully better than the first one, hopefully. But yeah, it just wasn't that great. Um, But thank you, Don. Thank you for coming on the show and chatting with me. You do your own blogs and reviews yourself, right?
Yeah. So most of my writing you can find online at donshorrorworld.blogspot.com. Articles, interviews, reviews, all sorts of stuff. You can find it online. You can find it on Facebook. I post on my Twitter and Instagram under my own personal handle. So it's pretty easy to find. And I also I have a weekly podcast. No More Room in Hell presents Fresh Cuts, which looks at the biggest indie streaming, VOD, theatrical, so on release of the current week. So we've done shows particularly looking at something like Malignant, the Fear Street trilogy, Conjuring 3, Spiral.
So some of the newer movies that are out.
Yeah, newer stuff. It's basically the current major release of the current week.
Yeah, we
If
do
there's
that with Horror, Blood, and Coffee as well. We love that, to be able
yeah,
to look. You're gonna probably do Halloween Kills, I'm guessing.
oh yeah, we've already got the recording date plans.
Yeah, that's a good I can't wait to see that one, honestly.
It's like the main one on my list to get to for Halloween. So
Venom's coming up too. Venom Let There Be Carnage, which is a superhero sort of thing, but it's also sort of horror like, which I really enjoy.
I heard rumors I did hear the rumors that it was supposedly more tinged with the genre than the first one was, which I'm kind of hoping, because I thought that one was not bad if they went in a horror route with the concept.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're saying, I'm saying if the rumors are true that they're going more on that route, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued by that one myself.
By the time this comes out, that'll already be out, and we'll all know.
Yeah, we'll know for sure.
We'll know for sure. So thank you so much. If you stick around and chat with me, but everybody else, thank you guys so much for checking this out. Join me tomorrow for another day of indie horror. Bye.
Later.